Seeing these gorgeous women fight is a huge step forward for equality and diversity. But what do these women and their agents know best? It's that being in an action movie makes them a global star and raises their asking price. It's a plan that male actors have used for a long time. In this video, we're going to talk about some of the best female action stars in modern cinema. First off, Michelle Yeoh. This actress is finally getting the attention she deserves. She's the main character in the new multiverse masterpiece, Everything Everywhere All at Once, and she has recently taken on new roles that show off her movie star charm and action movie experience. But did you know that Yeoh was one of the best action stars in the movie world even before her other recent hits like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and Tomorrow Never Dies? She was in some of the best action movies of the 1980s and 1990s, when Hong Kong was arguably the best place to make them. Yeoh's first chance to be the main character in a movie is also one of the best action films of the 1980s. In this movie, Cynthia Rothrock, a world champion in martial arts, plays Yeoh's co-star. This movie is often credited with starting the girls with guns subgenre in Hong Kong action movies. Yeoh plays a Hong Kong inspector who works with Rothrock, a detective from Scotland Yard, to solve a murder and find missing microfilm. Up next, Cynthia Rothrock. Western stars who have successfully broken China and Hong Kong are rare. So, who was able to break into the markets on both sides of the world? Cynthia Rothrock. Asia was the first one she broke, actually. She became famous in Hollywood because she was the first real-life female martial artist to make it big in the movie business. People who watched action movies in the late 1980s and early 1990s will recognize this face. She was often bad-mouthed because she didn't do much outside of low-budget movies that went straight to video. However, she was arguably the best Western martial artist on screen during that time, often putting Van Damme and Seagal to shame. Followed by Michelle Rodriguez. Since her big break in the indie boxing drama Girl Fight, Rodriguez hasn't had many leading roles. She's always been the bridesmaid, but never the bride. Or maybe she's always been the tough female sidekick, but never the hero. But she's got one of those faces that you love to see in genre movies. Her most famous acting role was in Fast and Furious, but she's also played tough-talking Latina women in SWAT, Avatar, Battle Los Angeles, and a couple of those bloody Resident Evil movies. She was also in the movie Machete, which gave Danny Trejo, another Latino badass icon, his first leading role. The assignment was the actress's first real chance to become a big action star on her own, but for both artistic and political reasons, it's probably best that the movie never gets seen again. That might not have been the best script for a big swing, but she's been in the background for far too long. Audiences are showing that they want more virtuoso violence and high-concept action movies than ever before. And if Rodriguez can find a smart director and a script that isn't a 40-year-old piece of bad noir, there's a big market for her kind of R-rated, gun-toting anti-hero. Moving on to Pam Grier. Grier was found by exploitation impresario Jack Hill, who cast her in sleazy, shot-in-the-Philippines quickies like The Big Dollhouse and The Big Birdcage. She's best known for playing the main character in classic blaxploitation movies like Foxy Brown and Coffee, directed by Hill. Even though the movies aren't related, she plays the same character in both, a badass woman who takes on the mob to get revenge for loved ones who were killed. After the blaxploitation boom ended, Grier was still a popular face in genre films. She played a bounty hunter in the Canadian killer cyborg movie The Vindicator, that came out before Terminator. She also had a recurring role in Miami Vice. Later, she got well-deserved parts in Seagal's Above the Law and John Carpenter's Ghosts of Mars. Next, let's look at Zoe Bell. This veteran stunt woman from New Zealand got a lot of attention when Quentin Tarantino cast her as herself in Death Proof, a movie about a serial killer with a car chase. That movie is, well, let's just say it's not very good. But when it got to the end and she was really hanging onto the hood of a speeding Dodge Charger, it was clear that a new star had been made. She's a terrible actress, but her image as a real tough girl gives her enough screen presence. And she's had memorable parts in movies like Oblivion, Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, and Django Unchained since then. She even had her first leading role in Raise, a movie about women in prison fighting, which came out last year. It wasn't anything special, but it's nice to see her getting some attention. Not to mention Scarlett Johansson. There's an interesting difference between an action star and a regular Hollywood movie star. Let's be real, actors like Bruce Willis and Mel Gibson can do it without much trouble. But for every Liam Neeson, there's an Owen Wilson in Behind Enemy Lines or an Adrian Brody in Predators. You wouldn't put Steven Seagal in a period drama, and just because someone's a great actor doesn't mean they can carry an action movie. This is what makes the recent change in ScarJo so interesting. She's a cool, beautiful indie starlet who works with Sofia Coppola and Woody Allen on movies and has an album of Tom Waits songs covered by other artists. She was the only one in the Avengers who didn't have a cool costume or backstory. Instead, she was just a Russian spy, but she made it seem like she could kill anyone on the team. This was partly because of her great first scene. Then, she could hold the whole thing together in Lucy, which came out this summer and was the craziest mainstream action movie since Crank. She looked like a girl who was in charge of everything, even as old boys goons shot at her and Morgan Freeman talked about nonsense science. We don't want a Black Widow movie, we want her to be in the remake of Death Wish 3, in which she just blows up everyone. Let's learn more about Gina Carano, the best hope for female action stars. Steven Soderbergh chose her to be be the star of her own movie, Haywire, because of how well she did in MMA fights, which wasn't unlike what he previously did with Sasha Grey. Putting Serrano up against experienced actors like Michael Fassbender, Ewan McGregor, and Michael Douglas didn't really help her acting, but her brutal arm bars and takedowns were a breath of fresh air compared to Hollywood actresses struggling with bad choreography. She got a part in Fast and Furious 6, which gave us a fight between Serrano and Michelle Rodriguez, which was as cool as it sounds. At the very least, it looks like she's got a good career ahead of her in DTV action movies. Coming up, Zoe Saldana. Here's how to tell if somebody is really an action star. In a big franchise movie, most actors will look cool if you use enough CGI, crazy costumes, and nerd jokes. And yes, Zoe Saldana's great in Star Trek and Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a shame she doesn't do anything in Star Trek Into Darkness, but whatever. But can they still do it if they only have a machine gun, a shaky plot, and a small budget? Both in The Losers and Colombiana, Saldana shows that she's better than Beckinsale and Jovovich. Jia Yanin. When Ong Bak came out in the middle of the 2000s, Thailand was, for a short time, the country with the most interesting cult movies. Young Jia Yanin, interesting talents to come out of the time. In her first movie, Chocolate, directed by Ong Bak's Prachya Pinkau, she played an autistic teen girl who was almost deaf and an unstoppable Muay Thai badass. The great fights and almost insensitive storyline brought her international attention, and she's since made a string of great Thai movies, including Tom Yum Goong 2 with Ja, which came out last year. Finally, Maggie Cheung. Maggie Cheung used to compete for Miss World. Earlier in her career, she played damsels in distress. We think she's especially annoying as Jackie Chan's girlfriend in the first few Police Story movies. But she said that working with Wong Kar-wai on his first movie, As Tears Go By, boosted her career. After that, she worked with Oliver Assayas, Quentin Tarantino, and Wayne Wang. More importantly, she showed that she was one of the best female leads in the golden age of Hong Kong action movies, even though she didn't know how to fight. Ashes of Time, a beautiful Ardia Wuxia film by Wong Kar-wai, and The Heroic Trio, a superhero movie with Michelle Yeoh and Anita Mui, are two of her best movies. That's a wrap for this video. Who's your personal favorite action star? What do you think of these actresses and their performance on screen? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.